Prime Minister, dear Justin, members of the government, members of the Parliament, all distinguished guests, friends. Before I begin, I would like you to understand my feelings and feelings of all Ukrainians, as far as it is possible. Our feelings over the last 20 days. 20 days of a full-scale aggression of Russian Federation after 8 years of fightings in Donbass region. Can you only imagine? Imagine that on 4 a.m. each of you start hearing bomb explosions, severe explosion. Justin, can you imagine hearing your children hear all these severe explosions, bombing of airport, bombing of Ottawa airport, tens of other cities of your wonderful country? Can you imagine that? Cruise missiles being falling down on your terrain, and your children asking you what happened, and you are receiving the first news which infrastructure objects have been bombed and destroyed by Russian Federation. And you know how many people already died. Can you only imagine what words, how can you explain to your children that you just, full-scale aggression just happened in your country? You know that this is war to annihilate your state, your country. You know that this is the war to subjugate your people. And on second day, you receive notifications that huge columns of military equipment are entering your country, crossing the border. They're entering small cities. They are giving siege, they're encircling cities. And they start to shell civil neighborhoods. They bombed school buildings, they destroyed kindergarten facilities, like in our city, city of Sumy, like in city of Ochtyrka. Imagine that someone is taking siege, laying siege to Vancouver. Can you just imagine them for a second? And all these people who are left in such city. And this is exactly the situation that our city of Mariupol is suffering right now. And they are left without heat or hydro, or without means of communicating, almost without food, without water, seeking shelter in bomb shelters. Dear Justin, dear guests, can you imagine that every day you receive memorandums about the number of casualties, including among women and children? You've heard about the bombings. Currently we have 97 children that died during this war. Can you imagine famous CN Tower in Toronto? If it was hit by Russian bombs. Of course, I don't wish this on anyone, but this is our reality in which we live. We have to contemplate, we have to see where the next bombing will take place. Your Churchill Square, we have a Freedom Square in the city of Harden. Our Babin Yar, the place where victims of Holocaust were buried, and it has been bombed by the Russians. Imagine that Canadian facilities have been bombed, similarly as our buildings and memorial places are being bombed. A number of families have died. Every night is a horrible night. The Russians are shelling from all kinds of artillery, from tanks. They're hitting civilian infrastructure, they're hitting big buildings. Can you imagine that there is a fire starting at a nuclear power plant, and that's exactly what happened in our country. Each city that they are marching through, they're taking down Ukrainian flags. Can you imagine someone taking down your Canadian flags in Montreal and other Canadian cities? I know that you all support Ukraine. We've been friends with you, Justin, but also I would like you to understand, and I would like you to feel this, what we feel every day. We want to live, and we want to be victorious. We want to prevail for the sake of life. Can you imagine when you call your friends, your friendly nation, and you ask, please close the sky, close the airspace, please stop the bombing. How many more cruise missiles have to fall on our cities until you make this happen? And they, in return, they express their deep concerns about the situation. When we talk with our partners, and they say, please hold on a little longer. Some people are talking about trying to avoid the escalation. And at the same time, in response to our aspiration to become members of NATO, we also do not hear a clear answer. Sometimes we don't see obvious things. It's a dire straits, but it also allowed us to see who our real friends are over the last 20 days, and as well 8 previous years. I'm sure that you've been able to see clearly what's going on, and I'm addressing all of you. Canada has always been steadfast in their support. You've been a reliable partner to Ukraine and Ukrainians, and I'm sure this will continue. You've offered your help, your assistance at our earliest request. You supply us with the military assistance, with humanitarian assistance. You've imposed serious sanctions. At the same time, we see that unfortunately they did not bring the end to the war. You can see that our cities like Kharkiv, Mariupol, and many other cities are not protected just like your cities are protected. Edmonton, Vancouver. You can see that Kyiv is being shelled and bombed. Ivano-Frankivsk. It used to be we were a very peaceful country, peaceful cities, but now they're being constantly bombarded. Basically, what I'm trying to say that you all need to do more to stop Russia, to protect Ukraine, and by doing that, to protect Europe from Russian threat. They're destroying everything: memorial complexes, schools, hospitals, housing complex. They already killed 97 Ukrainian children. We are not asking for much. We're asking for justice, for real support, which will help us to prevail, to defend, to save life all of the world. Canada is leading in these efforts, and I'm hoping that other countries will follow the same suit. We're asking for more of your leadership, and please take more greater part in these efforts, Justin and all of our friends of Ukraine, all friends of the truth. Please understand how important it is for us to close our airspace from Russian missiles and Russian aircrafts. I hope you can understand. I hope you can increase your efforts. You can increase sanctions so they will not have a single dollar to fund their war effort. Commercial entities should not be working in Russia. Probably you know better than many in any other countries that this attack on Ukraine, it's their attempt to annihilate Ukrainian people, and there is nothing else to it. This is their main objective. It's actually the war against Ukrainian people. And it's an attempt to destroy everything that we as Ukrainians do. It's an attempt to destroy our future, to destroy our nation, our character. You Canadians, you know very well all this. That's why I'm asking you, please do not stop in your efforts. Please expand your efforts to bring back peace in our peaceful country. I believe and I know that you can do it. And we are part of the anti-war coalition, and jointly I'm sure that we'll achieve results. I would like to also ask our Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. This is a historical moment, and we need your support, your practical support. And we hope that with your practical steps you will show that you are part of the modern Ukrainian history. Please remember, this is a practical modern day history of Ukraine. We want to live, we want to have peace. I'm grateful to every one of you in the Parliament of Canada who is present there, to every Canadian citizen. I am very grateful to you, Justin. I am grateful to Canadian people, and I am confident that together we will overcome and will be victorious. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you to Canada.
Sustained, standing, thunderous applause from members of Canada's Parliament for Ukraine's President Zelensky there after those comments. President Zelensky saying at one point, quote, "We want to live, we want to be victorious." He once again renewed those calls for a no-fly zone over his country. Back back with me. Peter Baker, Chief White House Correspondent for the New York Times and MSNBC political analyst, has covered Russia for years. At one point, he was the bureau chief there. Peter, we just heard him there speak to a translator, but speak directly to Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, called him by his first name a number of times, trying to make his old friend understand the sheer hell that Ukrainians are living through. President Zelensky going to be addressing our lawmakers tomorrow. What kind of response from the West will you be watching for after his remarks to members of Congress here, Peter?
Yeah, this is a powerful moment, and one of the reasons it's powerful, Craig, is because Ukraine has a particularly resonant feeling toward Ukraine. Canada has a very resonant feeling toward Ukraine. More people of Ukrainian extraction live in Canada than anywhere in the world outside of Ukraine and Russia, about 1.4 million people. The woman who is sitting to the left of Prime Minister Trudeau, as you saw her on the screen, that's Chrystia Freeland. She's the finance minister in Canada, former foreign minister in Canada. She's Ukrainian, of Ukrainian. I've been to her home. She speaks Ukrainian with her children around the table. This is a big deal in Canada. That's why you saw the passion and the emotion in their response to what they heard there. But it's a tough message from President Zelensky, because what he's telling them is, yeah, I appreciate what you've done. We're in this together. Thank you very much, but you haven't done enough. And that's the message he'll no doubt deliver tomorrow to the U.S. Congress as well. And it's one thing to say sanctions, that's great. He's saying, but we need you to do more. And what he's asking for, though, is something that's very complicated. The notion of a no-fly zone sounds simple enough, but it's really not. And both Democrats and Republicans here in Washington would tell you that is basically tantamount to getting into this war in a real way. If you're going to have a no-fly zone enforced by NATO or the United States, that means you're committing to shooting down Russian planes over Ukrainian airspace, which is only a couple steps away from a full-scale war. That's something that President Biden and many members of Congress in both parties want to avoid. But there is a passion for finding a way to help Ukraine, and the no-fly zone is being discussed increasingly here in Washington as well as elsewhere in the West.
Peter, can the Ukrainians win this war or keep Russia from taking it over? Not to oversimplify it, but can they do that without the existence of a no-fly zone?
Well, I mean, what a lot of people would tell you, military experts would tell you, and I'm not a military expert,
sure,
is that the no-fly zone isn't necessarily the biggest thing that they need right now, because a lot of the damage that you're showing on the screen right now, a lot of the devastation that the Russians are causing is through artillery and land-based weaponry, missiles, and things that a no-fly zone wouldn't do anything to stop. So as a military matter, Ukraine needs a whole lot more than a no-fly zone, but obviously that would be a big deal if it were to happen. Can Ukraine win? I'm not a military expert, but they have shown in the last few weeks that they're not going to go down softly. They're not going to go down easily. And Russia, if they want to overpower Ukraine, they have the firepower, presumably, to do that over the long term. But what they're being told is it will not be easy, and they will continue to fight even if they lose their cities and their military.